to other teams in DLUC, PINs, PAS, you know, we've all got a role to play in planning, and the tech companies as well. It's really important to bring them along on the journey because they're not planners and they don't understand this. So if you can help give a bit of insight into our world, what we do, what our sort of statutory duty is, plus, you know, any extras you want to achieve as a local authority, it's really good to set those out. And like I say, just bring everyone along in the best way that you can. Next slide, please, whoever's controlling. Thank you. And a few lessons learned, sorry, before I pass on to Helen. I guess the first point, most broad point, is that digital shift can often mean a full cultural change. So in order to do that, especially at LPA level, we found that senior buy-in is really important. So talk to your heads of service, your exec directors, your chief execs, and members. We've got a cabinet portfolio lead who's really up to date with what we're doing and really supportive. So you're then pushing at an open door if they're supportive of what you're doing, both in terms of making your bids for money, which, you know, obviously you've all got past that hurdle to start with, but make sure you're updating them on what's going on. You know, sign off for finance procurement, that will often go through those people as well. So if you can keep them in the loop, we definitely say that's a really important part of the journey. Also, don't expect everyone to be moving at the same pace with digital. So not just one local authority to the other, but even within the authority. We've been trying to sell a particular product that has so much potential to our corporate comms team. It's not that they're not having any of it, it's just they're not working at the same pace as us. So, you know, whilst we can do our best, just remember that you know, you've got your specific project to deliver. If you can bring people along on the way, that's great, but sometimes it might be a sort of slower moving piece to bring all of the authority along with you. Same for the public as well, and engaging them. Not everyone is moving at the same pace and happy to accept the change. So take the wins where you can get them. Everything else, it's you know, it's going to come over time. It will. In terms of procurement, then I've touched on, so two things. Firstly, have a really frank discussion with them early on. We found that our team were very good, but we've heard from loads of other LPAs they've got caught at the procurement stage. So if you were just really clear what the fund is, what it's trying to achieve, and that you need the quickest and easiest route possible. And then second to that, once you get to the sort of specification side of things, be really clear about, again, what you want to deliver. If you need help with the sort of technical side of things, that's where DLUC are really good at supporting. So I mentioned APIs earlier. You might not know what they are, and it might be an integral part of your specification. So, you know, talk to the contacts you've got, and you can make sure you've got a really clear brief then, and make use of things like G Cloud as well. But your procurement team will know all about that, and lots of tech companies are getting on board with that, which makes things really simple. And then finance is the other thing. So again, the people that are holding the money, you want to make sure that they know this money's ring fenced so it doesn't get sucked into your corporate pots or go walkabouts. So hopefully you've all received your money and know where it is, but make sure you hold on to it with the new financial year coming. And again, it sort of links into procurement. So make sure your finance sort of business partners, whoever you talk to about your budgets, knows that this is coming, what the money's being spent on, and what it's going to achieve, and then hopefully that process will be as sped up as physically possible. Though I know some people might have a little bit of a harder time, especially if you're appointing various different tech sort of solutions. So I'll pass on to Helen now.
Thank you. If I could have the next slide, please. So it certainly has been an evolution, and what started in round one was a really simple pilot study. We didn't have a digital platform to carry out consultations, and I just happened to be in the process of exploring what options we might have for our local plan when the fund was published. So perfect timing for us, and we just simply did a very basic pilot study to see who would engage in this platform. That was, as I say, over 2 years ago, and for round 4 we're now looking at building a digital local plan, so with an interactive 3D policies map, which hopefully people will be able to actually put their comments on. This is not something we would have imagined at the start, that we would be working towards this. But in all of that, it has all kind of continued to be focused on 3 broad areas of challenge, which we've sort of come across with engaging people on local plans, which I'll explain on the next slide, please. So I'm sure everybody who's ever dealt with a local plan will be familiar with these kinds of challenges that we have with local plan engagement. Firstly, we've got this really wide range of consultees that we have to get involved. So everyone from really specialist technical experts at statutory agencies right down to local residents and school children. The second one is the long-term nature of the plan. So having to keep people interested when it could be a year between consultations and people don't really see any progress. So trying to keep that kind of information alive and ensuring that people are interested and want to give their opinion about things. And finally is around visualization. So when you've got a small scheme or potential development that's got a drawing and a plan, it's really easy for people to look at, but how do you visualize policy? So there's that challenge, and also the idea of maps. They're not for everybody, so trying to look at different ways of enabling people to see the kind of information and what that might mean on the ground. So next slide, please. So some of the solutions we've used over the time of the programme, as I said, we used a digital platform at the start. We used this for our Reg 18 consultation, which we ended last year. So again, it was a massive step forward for us. We had these lovely tiles, so people could just dip into whichever chapter or policy that they wanted to and find what they wanted. So yeah, really good positives there. We got over 1,000 comments. And because they were on the platform, it was really easy to process them, not all this shifting and reading PDF documents, etc. So that was brilliant. But we still did receive 300 odd comments via email again, and they tended to be the really long, complex ones from statutory consultees. They didn't use the platform. Next slide, please. So one of the things we worked at over the last round is how we kind of looked at that challenge of the statutory consultees and trying to understand their user journey as well as our user journey. So we were kind of assuming what we thought the barriers were, but actually getting them all in a room together for the first time, we understood where they were coming from as well as where we were coming from. And we did a small trial with them using this platform called Conveyo. So it basically looks like a PDF document, but you can click on a paragraph and a little box pops up, which you can see on the visual there, where you can add your comments. So it enabled them to read the document in a more document style and pop their comments on. But even despite this trial, there's still ongoing challenges. Some of them are around functionality, some around perception, and it sort of led us to sort of ask the question, is this formal consultation the right way to collect information from these key statutory consultees? So we've been continuing that conversation with the policy team at DLUC, which has been really useful because they're the ones that are now developing the regs and the detail of that and actually making sure they understand how it works at the coalface is really, really important. Next one, please. I think I'm going to hand back to Amber now.
Yeah, so Helen just mentioned that side of things, but obviously the public, we still want to improve transparency, engagement. So we were looking at what more we could achieve with our sort of 3D modelling. So we just wanted to show you a quick visual. Again, focusing on solutions. So we're talking about a new interactive web map. We've got one at the moment, which is just a 2D base map, doesn't look very pretty. And we were able to generate this sort of version. So it adds in points of interest. It's got your address search, measuring tool, sharing options, all which our current version has got. This just looks much prettier. But if you move on to the next slide, it's also able to go 3D. So we've added in our 3D modelling, including consented schemes, which are the ones in yellow there. And the aim of this is to improve understanding. That visualization element that Helen talked about is so difficult to achieve. And transparency in terms of what we're doing. So what policies, where, how does this sit with what's coming through planning application wise? And the aim is for this to link in, I mentioned APIs earlier. It's basically an agreement between our GIS database and this software to share the data. So if we update anything in our GIS, SEC GIS database, it will then appear on the web map. So it's a single source of truth that is always up to date, and it will have that long-lasting legacy as well moving forward. And the more we can add to it, the more added value, obviously, for both us and the public. This can be used by all the planning officers, by anyone in the public once it's launched. It hasn't been published yet, but that's the aim. We're just we're adding in some extra elements and tweaking to make it a more high fidelity version. But once it's ready to go, obviously we can share a link with the group to check it out. Next slide, please. Okay, so learnings and advice then from that sort of next section is don't expect to fix everything. We have gone through several rounds now, and we always have a sort of pros and cons, like Helen showed before, that there are always some negatives, always things we want to fix, and it is a journey. It's something we need to work through together. Often extra things need extra money, so you never know, there might be future rounds. Like, you know, we didn't know at round one that there would be future rounds of funding, but there have been, and it's great to see that we've been able to grow our ideas, you know, create some more solutions, and you have to remember that you're not alone in this. Everyone else is creating solutions. It's all learning together. On top of that, be prepared to compromise. So some things just might not be possible yet, but your tech companies will be the ones to take the lead on that and tell you what the art of the possible is. So take their direction, you know, test things with DLUC if you need to, but be prepared that you might not get the ideal solution first time round. Think about your outcomes again. So we said think about the bigger picture. It's always good to look back at that, especially when you're talking about compromise. And learning is learning. Even if the DLUC colleagues have been great and said, even if it all fails, it's still learning and it's still important. So you might have some things that just aren't possible, and that's okay. I'm sure it still is okay, but tell me otherwise, DLUC, if you disagree. And then don't just focus on improving your journey. Planning and place shaping is about bringing people together. So you need to listen, and you know, it's all about sort of sharing awareness as well as that feedback. Next slide, please. Sorry, that's for you, Helen.
Thank you. So in terms of looking forward now to round 4, we're really sort of got this focus on how we can create legacy for ourselves and others. For us, it's really exciting because for the first time we're working in partnership with another LPA, which is the City of London Corporation. So we're not coming at this with the same tech at all. It's about the fact that we're bringing together different technology that we've each got in our organisations, but trying to achieve the same objectives. So again, this real hopefully be able to really demonstrate how we can scale these technologies going forward. So it doesn't mean that all LPAs have to do the same thing in the same way. It's about them being adaptable and still creating outcomes that we need. And I think by focusing on those common challenges and demonstrating that we can scale it, that's how the legacy will come. So we'll say, you know, this is how it works. It can work for lots of different LPAs in lots of different ways. And you can pick and choose. So LPAs that have not been on the fund then can see that there are a range of options available to them, and they can come in with as much tech or as little and go take baby steps if they want, or go straight in if they've got funding. So that's really exciting. The other part of it is, as we've already mentioned, feeding back to the DLUC policy team. We were really lucky to have a meeting with the team that are actually involved in developing the new regulations at the moment. And obviously that's ultimately what we want to do with this. It's about trying things out and talking to the people to say, this is what works and this is what doesn't work, and this is how we can help improve the process going forward. And actually having that put in the regs going forward would be an amazing outcome for us and for everyone, we hope. So thank you, that's all.
Thank you so much, Helen and Amber. I know Sarah's going to come back in a sec, but it's so invaluable to hear it from your experience. I think we can waffle on for as long as we like, but hearing it from you that have been through it for so many years now is so valuable. So thank you for sharing that with us. And we did manage to record a bit of that. I hope that's okay. So we will share that back as well with whoever hopefully on the Notion. Sarah, shall I go back to you?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, and thank you so much, Amber and team. I just wanted to come in and say, did anyone have any questions for anything that was shared in that presentation?
I was just going to add as well, if there's any follow-up after, you know, it's always difficult when you're here on the spot, but I'm sure I speak for both Helen and I that if people want to reach out with anything after, that's fine. We're always happy to chat. We're more than happy to chat. I think that's why we were asked to talk today. So yeah, if we can help anyone else out with their journey, happy to offline.
That's perfect, thank you. I'm going to stop recording now because